Hello everyone, welcome to this next instalment for the Star Wars Legion painting guide series I've been doing. Today we're looking at the Luke Skywalker miniature, which comes in the core box set for Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games. So this Luke is normally painted up in relatively light colours, so similar to what you'd see in A New Hope. So beige, white, a lot of that sort of that look, and then of course his blue lightsaber that he gets from Obi-Wan Kenobi. But what I've been asked to do is to paint this one slightly differently and go for something a bit more Return of the Jedi. So that's the dark clothes, the green lightsaber, which in a way it is a bit easier to paint because it's just dark robes, which are of course much easier than light robes. So to start off, what I'll be doing is I'll be doing the face in the normal way, which is a base colour of model colour basic skin tone, followed by a wash of Vallejo Game Wash, which is their standard flesh wash. So these will be done on his face, because on his hands of course he's wearing gloves. I believe he's wearing gloves on both hands. If not, I'll have to check a reference photo to double check. Then for the rest of it, so for his trousers, his shirt and everything, I'm going to go straight in with just Vallejo black. Shall I? I won't actually. I will give him a coat of black grey rather than black. I was thinking originally of doing black and then dry brushing with black grey, but I don't really think that's going to be necessary. So if I go in with black grey and then follow it up with a wash of Nuln Oil, it should give us the shadows and recesses that we need to start highlighting again from the black grey layer. And in case there's any confusion, that's Nuln Oil, basic black wash from Games Workshop. So we'll start off with these. We'll also start thinking a bit about the lightsaber itself and how to get a good glow on that. So I'll go ahead with these colours and then come back when I've had a bit of progress. And yeah, I just had to pause to check the colour of his boots. His boots are black as well, so we'll be going with the same for that. Same scheme for that, so I'll go ahead, get that done, and then come back shortly. So very quickly, just going to check in with the progress being made on Luke. As well as doing the flesh and the his clothing, I actually went ahead and put a base coat down on the lightsaber using Vallejo Game Colour Goblin Green. I also then picked out the lightsaber itself, just using Game Colour Silver, and then I put a base coat down for his hair using Game Colour Extra Opaque Heavy Sienna, which is a very nice colour, gives very good coverage and it highlights up well. So now those are done, I'll add the Nuln Oil wash and the flesh wash, and I'll come back and I'll move on to the next section. So now I've applied the washes to Luke, I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the bits I've decided to do a bit differently. So most obviously at the moment you can see that I've actually changed the colour of the lightsaber. I've decided to start with a white base so that I've got a lighter colour to start with, and it should hopefully make the green a bit brighter. So this again will just get a coat of the Game Colour Goblin Green, and then I'll start highlighting that a little bit with model colour Off-White, adding a little bit each time, just making sure that there's a little bit of a highlight on each layer, going up sort of like vertically up the length of the blade. For the flesh, I'll be doing that as I normally do. That'll be highlighting again with basic skin tone, and then finishing off with highlights on the chin, the nose, and the tops of the cheeks using model colour Light Flesh. I sometimes add another wash of flesh wash in there as well, just to sort of like try and blend the highlights in a bit better. So that'll be done during this step as well. I'll also add the eyes, so again just a slit of white paint with the black pupil added in. Then for the hair, another highlight with the heavy sienna, but into the heavy sienna I'm going to be mixing a little bit of Game Colour Earth and then finally a little bit of model colour Iraqi sand. As Luke's got quite not blonde but quite light hair, I want to give him some highlights, so that's quite obviously the hair colour, to sort of contrast it a bit with Han and Leia. Now, the largest part of the model, for this one in particular, is the black. So I want to try and pick out all of the highlight areas. I started with grey-black, or black-grey, it's called, and then added a wash of Nuln Oil. So I'll go back over it again, maybe with a dry brush, maybe just with the edge highlight. I'll see just sort of like how good it's looking at the moment. Just of the original black-grey colour again. Into that, I'll start adding a little bit of London Grey and a little bit of Wasted Jean, which is a blue colour. So this will try and move the highlights away from looking like it's grey and more to a sort of like a cool tone of black. And then finally, and very finally, some very extreme highlights of light grey mixed in, just to give it that little bit of sort of contrast. I'd like to try and do some object source lighting on this. I watched Sir Astro's video on how he did his Darth Vader, and he used a glaze to try and add the red highlight, so I might try to do some of that. I want to see how well I get on first, because it's not something I'm absolutely confident with. So I'll go ahead and make these highlights and get the model sort of like to a standard where you can see what I've been working on, and then I'll come back and show you the next steps. And here is the finished version of Luke. So I followed the steps I mentioned previously, going back over the clothing with the Vallejo model colour dark grey, highlighting it up, followed with the London grey, mixed in a little bit of Wasted Jeans, and then finally a highlight of light grey, as you can see see a bit better on the back. Tried not to go too far because I don't want it to look like he's wearing grey. I want it to look more like black, so it was important that I stopped when I did. I went around and I highlighted some of the straps around in his legs that you can see at the bottom here, and then the holster and his belt there. I picked out the belt buckle with some game colour silver, just to try and make it stand out, and also I picked out some of the buttons on the back of his pouches there. Just a little detail. I mean, this is a very dark model, so it's important to pick out the small details so it doesn't look like the whole thing is just black. Of course, this isn't the Return of the Jedi Luke from Star Wars Legion. This is the core box Luke, which I think is meant to be a sort of like Tatooine version Luke, so early film rather than later in the trilogy. So he should be wearing like beiges and tan colours, but Josh has asked me to try paint it up with a Return of the Jedi look, so hence the black. The face was done in the way I described, and actually I think that's come out quite nicely. Looks a little bit like Mark Hamill. Doesn't look too bad at all. That was done with the Vallejo basic skin colour, basic skin tone, and then the light flesh as well. Just highlighting up, did the same on his hand. For the hair, that was the heavy sienna mixed with a little bit of game colour earth, and then finally the Iraqi sand, which has worked very nicely. Not too brown, not too blonde, looking pretty good. And then after that it was the lightsaber, so again that was the game colour goblin green with a little bit of off-white mixed in, and just sort of try to pull the highlight from the bottom of the blade up. It's not too obvious, but I didn't want it to be too in your face. So for the lightsaber glow, I was quite careful with this because I didn't want to go chucking a glaze all over stuff that I've already done. So I might go back and sort of like lighten the colour I've used just to try and get a slightly brighter look to it. But that was the goblin green mixed with a bit of glazed medium. And so that was probably I would say probably a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio of glazed medium to paint. So very, very, very diluted paint. And I layered it up several times, like 5 or 6 times, to try just get a very thin glaze of the green rather than actually painting it on. So you can still see the colour underneath, but there's quite clearly a green glow to it. And I think it looks alright actually. Doesn't look too bad. I don't think I will mess with it. I don't want to mess it up. Because if you can look on his shoulders here, it's sort of like all the way up here. Just trying to pick the areas where the lightsaber would glow onto his uniform. So overall, quite happy with this. This is actually the final part of the Rebel half of the box set completed. So now this is done, we'll start looking more at my favourites, the Imperials. So I'll be painting these for myself, so it's going to be quite interesting. I want to try something different, and we'll see where we go. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for the next video. Thank you.